Welcome back to the Parallel Universe. I'm your host, Logan Bruce, and in the Square Table Studios, via the internet, we have Sweet Tooth Eddie. Sweet Tooth, what's going on, my friend?
What up?
Good, good,
Hey,
good.
hey, glad to be here.
Good, man. We're glad to have you. And if you guys don't know, Sweet Tooth Eddie is a artist for Saturday AM, the world's most diverse manga anthology. Oh man, it's great to have you here. Appreciate you coming on to the Square Table Studios and on the Parallel Universe. I know you guys over at Saturday AM are extremely busy, so I really appreciate you taking out the time to come on to the Parallel Universe. First, before we get started on Saturday AM and everything. How did you get the name Sweet Tooth? If we may ask that.
Oh yeah, that's a goodie. So as you can see, I'm a piece of candy, and there's a reason I'm a piece of candy, and my name is Sweet Tooth. Growing up, I obviously had a sweet tooth, loved candy, loved sweets. My mom was real big into baking, so it kind of just escalated from there. She'd always bake, I'd do artwork, and then we'd like enjoy our sweets together afterwards. So, it just kind of stuck with me.
Oh, that's beautiful, man. And nothing like baking with mom. That's amazing, man. That's awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about Saturday AM and how you got started with them.
Oh, so that one's kind of fun. I was already doing like a little bit of industry work, like under a different name, and then doing like some commissions and just I was already in the business for like 10, 15 years. But I never really got into manga or like I was doing like comics a little bit, but not manga. So I was playing around with it. I've been doing it for a little bit on my personal time, and then I kind of saw Saturday and I like kept on them for like a year or two and I liked what they were doing, and they had something in my area. So I was like, "Oh yeah, I'll go check that out. That sounds pretty cool." But when I showed up and I got to talk to them a little bit, we kind of hit it off, and they were like, "Oh, you're an artist?" And I was like, "Yeah, man. I didn't want to hit y'all with a portfolio. I know y'all get those all the time." But they were like, well, I'm a little curious because, like, you kind of you talk different, like." So yeah, I showed them a little bit of my work. They were like, "Wait, you did this?" And one thing led to another, and then they were like, "Hey, I know we just picked you up, but here's an entire series that has six of our main characters." And I was like, "Oh, yeah, let's do it." And then I got picked up for Saturday Wars.
All right, cool. Okay, cool. So how long have you been with Saturday AM?
Let's see. I would say I think that was like 2023.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that was around January, February 2023.
Okay. Oh man. So you just recently joined the group over there. And
Yeah.
and yeah, and they came out with the Saturday Wars. This right here, you got
Yep.
Saturday Wars. Mr. Sweet Tooth Eddie did the artwork on this. Uh, very, very. I have not finished reading this, but I started, and it is captivating right from the beginning. The artwork is amazing.
Hey,
So
hey.
yeah, man, it's great. So let me ask you this question: since you just got started with Saturday AM, and they were like, "Boom, we got six characters we want you to draw." How hard was that to go from the way you draw to having to learn what these characters look like and how to draw them?
The pain. It took so many tries. Before we even got started on the project, I was already playing around with it. When they first brought it up to me, I was like, okay, I got a couple months before this actually drops. So I spent like 2, 3 months actually just practicing a little bit of every style of manga, like from One Punch Man to Dragon Ball Z to all the OG Big Three. Like I just played around with a little bit of every style just so I could really absorb that manga essence. And then of course I had my own style, so it was kind of hard to mess with that and like incorporate my style while still taking their styles. So after that, I went through every single character and kind of got a gist. Obviously, read their like books and got a gist of the overall feeling of the character. Because even though I couldn't draw exactly like they did, I wanted to still capture the feeling of that character. So once I had that down, I started playing with it. Then we got into pre-production, and it just went from there. I started playing with it, sent it to each person, and they're like, "Oh, I love how you drew it," and then we just went from there.
Oh wow! See, that's something that us non-artists may not understand. You said you had to capture the feeling of the characters. So I got a couple of characters that's inside the wars right here. So we have Stud from Hammer, so he's in there. Of course, Sano from Apple Black, and Cass from Clock Striker. And so each one of these characters are different. And so when you say you had to capture the feeling of them, can you explain that to us who can't draw? I mean, I can't draw a stick figure to save my life. So can you elaborate a little bit on that so we can understand what that means?
Well, first of all, you could probably draw. I'm gonna say it like this, like my mom told me. If you got a heartbeat, you can dance. If you could draw, or if you could write, you could draw. Like
Okay.
drawing letters, the same thing. It's just a little. It just takes practice. But all that said, a good example. We'll start with Stud from Hammer. Absolutely love Stud. He's so fun. And Jay, who I believe you've had on here before,
Yeah.
obviously you can feel his energy just himself. He's a cartoon character by himself. It's amazing.
I love Mr. J. Odin. He's a wonderful person, and his book art, Hammer, is absolutely great. It's fun and it's exciting at the same time, and I absolutely love Hammer. And I brought these to my mom, and she read all five of the books in like a day and a half. So she really enjoyed Hammer as well. But yeah, so
That's
Stud
awesome.
definitely has this energy about him. Uh,
hmm
yeah, so continue on with that story. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Yeah. So whenever I was approaching each character, not only I was lucky enough to kind of meet at least two of the artists because I met Jay and White when I first got introduced to Saturday, and Jay even trained me a little bit. That's pretty cool. But whenever I first started playing with the characters, I had to like think, okay, how does the author want to portray this character, and what's the energy they have? Because each character, after a while, when you do artwork, a character becomes its own person. Like you don't even have control over it anymore. I know it sounds kind of cheesy and goofy, but it really happens that way. It's like the story tells itself, or the character moves in its own way, and you just already know how the character works. Like it's like, oh, yep, that's how that's gonna work. I know what this character would do in this situation. So I had to get to the point where I understood the characters on that level, all six of them from different series. And then when I understood, okay, how would Stud interact here? How would Stud move here? What would his expressions be? That's when I started to get a feeling of the character, and that's when I was able to like capture that in art form because it's like, oh, Stud's very bouncy. He has a lot of rhythm. He has a lot of like goofy interactions. He's not too serious, so his posture would be different. He would be more relaxed in a lot of different states. Whereas everybody else is freaking out over the end of the universe. He's like, hey, that's pretty cool. What is that? A ghost? And he like goes to check it out. So, and then Sano, he's got a bit more of a like strong main character energy. So he's very curious while also reading people and has a good judge on people. So he's going to be very observant. I have to like, okay, he'll have a little bit more of a focused face, but sometimes there's goofy moments. And then of course you got Dante, who's a full grown man. Cass, who's a young. It's a lot of back and forth, but you kind of get a feel for the characters, and they kind of write themselves and draw themselves after a while.
Oh man, that's awesome. See, a lot of us who don't draw, or even those who may just, I guess, dabble a little bit. See, I guess to become an artist such as yourself, or be able to work, with manga or comics, you have to have that level of understanding. I had another guest on Parallel Universe, and he said something similar, that that the story has to coincide with how the character is acting in that story, just pretty much like you said. So how would he be standing in this situation? And no, he wouldn't be doing this, or yes, he would be. And so he said the same thing. So it's just more than being able to draw the superhero, dun, 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 dun. You have to have that feeling behind it. And also you have to have the story behind the superhero, to draw the buildings or that cup, or the scenes behind the superhero. So that's something that maybe those who don't understand how comics and manga work, that's something they may need to learn, or progress to. Is just more than just the actual drawing of a character. So that's very insightful, and I know that is very helpful for those who may want to get into um, artists and drawing for comics or manga, that they would need to do more than just the character. So can you tell us something about the character? We know you had a good, because I started reading Saturday Wars, and on looking at just the artwork, the cover, I can't see a difference between any of the characters that were drawn by the other artists versus what you did. Um, so I would like to know about some of your own um, things that you did before Saturday Wars and working with Saturday AM. Some of your characters and some of your experiences that you may have had.
Gotcha. So, a fun fact before I get to that, the cover was actually done. Each character was done by the original artist, so
Oh,
that's a
really?
really like cool thing. And then all the first chapters,
Uh,
well, not the first chapter, but like the second, third, you'll start to see like each character has the original artist come back for like 6, 7 pages for their little introduction, and then I pick up from there.
okay.
There are moments where I had to fill in and kind of copy styles, or actually had a couple assistants come in behind me and also copy styles and try to copy my style to fill in because obviously we have deadlines.
Yeah.
I wish we could spend years on a book. That'd be amazing. I could create so much cool stuff, but yeah, you'll see a lot of moments where art will shift. It's either an artist or it's me copying some other artist. It's actually kind of fun and it fits really well into the multiverse theme that's going on here since Fred had amazing writing with this and he put together a really cool story that like ties into the industry and artwork and the process and comic history. It's just really cool how it all ties together. And I think it's actually kind of cool how the art style will change and you'll notice the little tweaks. But my job was I basically did the initial 200 pages, and then they came behind me on some pages, and I'd come behind them after they did some little change ups. Um, but yeah, you'll pretty much get the gist of it. And the original question was what again? I'm sorry, I got on a tangent.
I would just want to know about some of your experiences and some of your characters that you had before Saturday AM. If you can go get into some of that.
Ooh, okay. So before Saturday Wars, I was working on just like personal projects or commissions. I did a little bit of work for character designs for some stuff. A lot of stuff was NDA. That's why whenever I started with Saturday Wars, I went under my like more personal name of Sweettootheddy. Whereas before I used an NDA and some other titles. I did like some kids books. I did some storyboarding for like video games and stuff like that. It was fun. But some of the open stuff that I can talk about, which is like my personal project, I actually recommend you guys check it out if you haven't read it either on www.junkwiz.com. Now, it is for mature audiences. It has a little bit of violence, some monsters and stuff like that. I'd recommend at least 16 and up, 17 and up, maybe 18 up just to be safe because there is like a little bit of cussing and some violence and stuff like that.
Okay, so
It's a
18
horror manga.
okay,
Yes, I
18
grew up
18
loving horror manga. Like horror manga was, or horror stories in general, and then of course horror manga. So I loved horror. So I got into horror, and that's where Junkwas came from. It actually was originally Concrete Forest, but we had some branding issues and trademark issues, and it became Junkwoods. That's on pause right now, but
Okay.
chapter one is up on junkwoods.com. It did really well. I was actually really happy with the project. I was working on that before Saturday Wars, and then I put that on pause, obviously, to just full blown work on Saturday Wars, and then picked it up after we had like, closed in on finishing. Um, I did launch that, I think, fall of last year, and it did really good. Numbers, I got on the front page of a couple sites and great reviews. Everybody wants more, and I was like, you gotta wait a little bit because there might be some stuff in the works for that. It's either going to continue as a manga, or I guess it's okay to do this way, but it's either going to continue as a manga, or might end up having a team work with me, and we make it into almost like an animatic. So not full blown show or like anime, but like an 3D animatic, which would be pretty cool because we have some voice actors lined up for that.
Oh man, that'll be amazing, man. I hope that works out for you.
Yeah.
That'll be great. Uh, okay, something I want to circle back to because some people may not know this either. You mentioned deadlines, and you wish that you had years to work on a book. So tell us a little bit about the deadlines and trying to meet those, and how that plays into what you're doing as on that book, so to speak. We're like, oh, what I got to do, and how you can kind of narrow down your time to fit to meet the deadline.
Well, I'll start with this. If you ever want to get into the industry or do any of this kind of work, regardless of whether you're an artist, a writer, an editor, a graphic designer, there's a lot of positions. But absolutely have to understand a pipeline and management skills. Like, even if you aren't very good at that, you at least need to have somebody in your group that is, because it gets very hectic the more people that are involved. By yourself, you can take your time, do it when you want. Okay, two people involved. Okay, now we got to go back and forth. When you get into full industry pipelines, it can get really tricky. Obviously, White, Jay, and a lot of others have talked about it, but you have to meet a deadline. It's there is no ifs, ands, maybes. I'm sick. All of this, that, and the third. Nah, you got to meet that deadline. So, oh, you're sick. Too bad. Work through it. That's why a lot of manga artists in Japan struggle a lot, and sometimes will get sick or destroy their health for it. Luckily, Saturday AM is a bit more lenient because they understand like health is a key to creating great manga. So they're a little bit more lenient, but there are still deadlines because every boss has another boss, and those people have pockets, and they want to fill their pockets and they want to make sure that everybody's getting paid properly. And in order to do that, you have to keep on your deadlines. For instance, like the writer Fred, he had a deadline that he had set himself as well as some other people when he wanted the script done. And then I had a deadline when I had to have all the storyboards done. Like, oh, storyboards have to be done by this time so that the editors and other artists can go through, kind of review, we can make changes. And then, okay, here's this deadline for when I have all of the sketches finalized before I start inking. And then, of course, your final deadline of like, oh, I have to have my art done by this time, because then they have to also set it to like letterers or finalize the cover, or because a lot goes into printing the books. Obviously, the book is amazing. When I saw it, I was like stunned for a second because they raised the edges on the title. They have like a little bit of shine, so it's just great. So, like, I think about 20, 30 people went through this process of making this book happen. Like, yeah, I handled most of the artwork and Fred handled most of the script, but there's a lot of people involved. And that's why you got to be so diligent about make a pipeline, make a make a whole plan. When is this going to be done by? Have a little flexibility built in there, like expect bad things to happen. Me personally, when it comes to my artwork, I always I take like 4 days a month that I just schedule that something's bad is going to happen. Whether it's, oh, I hurt my wrist, or oh, the cat had a medical bill, or Godzilla came crashing through my home. You never know. I definitely recommend any artist or anybody in the industry schedule accordingly, schedule ahead of time, and expect issues.
Oh wow, that's great advice. Oh man, so there you have it, people. I mean, if you want to get in the industry, you have to have understand that it takes a lot of work. Because I know when I read comics or manga and everything, I never think about that stuff on the back end. I never think about how long it took someone to draw this character on this one page, or how the story that went to it. To me, it always like, oh, they just drew a comic book, or they just wrote a manga.
Yeah, oh, here
It's like
it is.
2 days and then they had it done. But it's a lot more involved than just that. You like you said, you have to have all these people in play and to have to be successful, man. And that's something that I think people really need to understand about doing manga or comics. It's just not, hey, I'm going to sit down and draw a comic in manga, and it's going to, I'm going to go out and sell it. There's more involved
Yeah,
than just that.
yeah. Marketing alone is a whole nother beast. I dabbled in business, obviously, like all my life, really. uh, so I kind of had an understanding a little bit beforehand. So I kind of got an edge on a lot of artists in that way. Like, oh, while I'm working on this project, I already know that after the project is finished, these people are probably going to ask, hey, do you have marketing? Hey, do you have images? Hey, do you have posters? Hey, can you get this logo to me? Do you have some of this stuff? So I also recommend that to artists. When you're working on a project, if you have the free time or while you're working on something, save different iterations of it, because they're gonna ask for stuff and they're probably forgetting that they're gonna ask, but they're gonna ask, and then you'll have it ready and you won't have to backtrack and, oh, I gotta go get this logo, or let me get this shot from this one panel and then make it for like this. Like, I worked in a very high resolution. I tried to work in vector, that way I can always take things that I need. For instance, the coloring book came out and they needed something from me. I already had it prepped. I just took it from the poster that we had already worked on, so I was like, oh yeah, here, I already had something ready. A lot of the assistants and some of the people working on some of manga right now, which you guys should check out, SaturdayAM.com. But some of them needed some of the assets that I built, because I also do 3D. So I worked on some of these backgrounds in here. You'll see, like you'll notice some of them are 3D, and I made them from scratch in Blender. Also recommend checking that out. It's free. Absolutely amazing program. But yeah, I built them from scratch, and then would draw over them or use them as reference. And some of those 3D assets are going to be recycled or reused by other artists. Or sometimes they needed to change a background. Like, oh, hey, we know you drew this whole city, but we need you to draw it again. And I'm like, no, here's a 3D asset that I built, and now I'll redraw it with this. So there are ways to save time, especially when you're trying to meet deadlines. But I definitely recommend people prep and expect those kind of things to pop up because they can be very tedious.
Oh, wow. See, that's something else that I did not know. So I appreciate you telling me that, man. Now, my last question for you is, how fun is it to be working on this manga and with Saturday AM?
Oh, it's a blast. It's an absolute blast. I've worked alone all my life when it came to the art industry, like just solo dolo. And that happens because, artists, you know, it's hard to get art as a business running sometimes for different platforms. But yeah, just jumping in with other people who just geek out and nerd out. I remember the first meeting we had, half of it was spent just talking about comics. We were so unproductive. They just started geeking. When I met Raymond and White at a book signing for one of the comic stores, we ended up spending a whole time just geeking out about like the big three or like what we grew up on, Toonami, Adult Swim, classics. That's the most fun part is when you meet like-minded people and just geek out on things that you love. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, of course, the business part is cool and the art and just seeing it on shelves is amazing. Like, I know my mom would be proud. She passed away, but right before she passed away, she had a kid's book published too. So that was really exciting. And then now I've taken on her mantle and I'm trying to keep it going. So that's hype, obviously. But like I said, it's the people that you meet and nerding out, geeking out. Even seeing the final product, we all just sit around like, oh, look at that, we did it.
Man, that is so awesome, man. And I will say, man, I had to kind of contain myself when I met you and White the other day because I was kind of geeking out, man. I was like, oh man, I know these guys and they're doing so well. I'm meeting you guys and they're doing such this wonderful things over there at Saturday AM. And Saturday AM is blowing up and making things happen and moving and shaking. I'm like, and I know the guys that are doing this, man. I've talked to them and I was kind of freaking out, man, because I was like, ah, and I love that feeling. I love the feeling that, like you said, someone you can geek out with, like-minded people, and that feeling that, oh my God, I know these guys. These guys are so cool, and I know them. And Mr. Freddie Jones, Fred knows me when he sees me. He knows me. I'm like, oh, I can't believe that Fred knows me. So yeah, I get that feeling, man, and man, yeah, you can talk manga, cartoons, and comics all day, man. I that's just something I love, and man, and I really appreciate everything that Saturday AM is doing, and your artwork, and that you're bored, and just to meet you, like I said the other day, and you being willing to come on a parallel universe, man, it means a lot, and I thank you so very much for you coming here. But before we go, tell everybody where they can, your contacts, the socials, anything you want to put out there for your fans, so they'll know how to reach you.
Gotcha. Before we do that, and before I say my little outro, I want to know how did you come about with Parallel Universe? And then I also want to know what got you into like anime, manga, like what was the big one that really like just you sunk your teeth into and it was just over from there?
Oh, okay. So how I got the name? Well, I got the podcast bug when I was living out in California. A friend of mine, he said, "Hey, you want to be on the podcast?" And I was like, "Sure, whatever." And so he was talking about Star Wars on his podcast. His name is Red Panther, and and so I was up there with him, and I fell in love with podcasting. And so when I moved back home to North Carolina, I was like, what am I going to do? Got to work some kind of way. And so I said, well, I'll start a podcast. I really loved it. And I was having trouble coming up with a name. And then Mitchie, she was like, well, why don't you call it the Parallel Universe? And I was like, I'm not calling it that. That don't make sense. And she said, well, think about it. She said, you talking about cartoons, comics, and sci-fi? I said, yeah. And she said, aren't all those in the they're in different universes, right? But all the universes are parallel. I was like, oh, because and I started thinking about it. I said, okay, so like the Transformers on Earth, GI Joe is on Earth. Well, I'm not going to use those two because they do have a crossover. But like Kirk is from Earth, but Kirk has never ran into a Transformer or anything like that. So and the X-Men have never ran into Megatron. All Earths, but parallel to each other. It's not the same Earth. So I
Right,
was
right.
like, that makes sense. That really makes sense. So the parallel. So all of us are connected in this universe. So that's where the name came from.
That's
And
sick. I like it.
and what got me started in this is my uncle. My uncle, he used to have a bunch of comic books. I mean, old comic books, like when comic books were like 5 cent comic books. Uh,
The penny racks.
and we would read them. So that got me into the comics and loving comics. And then, of course, the love of X-Men. X-Men is my favorite comic. Uh, of course, the cartoons came after that, and I was like, oh, okay, these cartoons. So, well, I've always loved cartoons. I've always been a big cartoon fan. But now to have the comic book in a cartoon form just blew my mind. I was like,
Oh,
oh,
I
okay,
bet.
and what got me into the manga is my mom. Because I didn't, I knew about Voltron and some of the other Japanese cartoons, but I didn't know that they came from a book. I just thought they were cartoons, that were made in Japan. And I
Yeah.
wasn't, and Gundam. I love Gundam, and and so then my mama started reading a manga called Dragon Ball Z, and my cousin would
Wow.
actually he would get the transcript from Japan, and he would have it translated into English, and he would give it to my mom, and my mom would just, like, as I mentioned, she loves to read, and and my cousin couldn't keep up with it, giving her the next issue fast enough. So my mom got me into manga, and then of course when Dragon Ball Z became a cartoon over here in America, okay, then it's over. It's like,
Yeah.
okay, it's a
Oh,
done
I'm
deal.
in there. I'm hooked. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm hooked. I've always loved, like I said, Gundam and Voltron, but I didn't know they were mangas and Japanese. So now I'm like, oh, this is where all this comes from. This is what it is. It's Japanese comic books. Well, okay, here I am. Sign me up, take my money. Here we go.
Yep.
And
I'm
so,
already. Yep. Let's do
yeah,
it.
yeah. So that's what got me hooked. So, my mom and
That's
my
awesome.
uncle are the people who to blame for me in this position.
Heck
So,
yeah.
but I love it. I'm glad they got me hooked. I really am. I
Oh yeah.
love doing this. So,
Yeah. I couldn't see myself involved in anything else. I mean, maybe some sports, but body gives out after a while. So
it does. It does. So, but hopefully the eyes and the mind will still be here, and the voice, so I can keep reading and and having these wonderful conversations and meeting wonderful people like you and the guys over there at Saturday AM. So, hopefully it'll last as long as it'll last. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, most definitely. It's people like you that make this so fun. Like those moments where I was working and those deadlines were creeping up and it's like 4 or 5 in the morning. I was like, man, what am I doing this to myself? And I was like, nah, I remember why. Because I enjoyed reading it, and there's gonna be people that enjoy reading it, and we can nerd out over it, and
Yeah.
that's what I did it for. That's what powered me through. So it was
Okay.
great to meet you. I had a blast being on here.
I appreciate it, man.
Um,
But don't forget to let
what
everybody know where they can find you.
Oh yeah, my outros. Yeah. So you can find me on YouTube, Sweet Tooth Eddie. I'm not like white manga. I don't have tutorials, but I will give you like insight or like some, drop some wisdom on you here and there. And you can see some behind the scenes on some Saturday War stuff on one of my videos. I will try to get more videos up. I'm not as consistent as some people. I have other stuff I'm doing. Yeah. Sweet Tooth Eddie on YouTube, Sweet Tooth Eddie on everything, Instagram, Twitter or X or whatever it is now. Who knows what it'll be next month? But yeah, all platforms, just Sweet Tooth Eddie. And check out Junkwiz, www.junkwiz.com. Read the first chapter for free. And obviously check out Saturday Wars. I think they even have like a chapter or two where you can read Saturday Wars and check that out on SaturdayAM.com. But yeah, that's pretty much it.
Awesome, awesome. All right, you guys, you heard it here. Sweet Tooth Eddie, thank you so very much for being on the Parallel Universe. We certainly
Hey,
appreciate it. We hope that you can continue to have much success. Hope Saturday AM continues to do their thing and be as popular as Shonen Jump and the rest of them, and just be a blast. Because to me, you guys are great, and I love everything you guys are doing over there. So keep up the good work. I really appreciate it. Thank you so very much for being here. And as always, we'll see you in the Parallel Universe.